Okay, so I want to take a look at the 3.3 practice 1. Do some video solutions for this guy. Okay, this is pretty quick assignment. A lot of this stuff goes pretty fast. So this first part, all they want you to do is just write this perfect square trinomial as a perfect square. So it's already been set up to be a perfect square trinomial. And so we know that x squared minus 30x plus 225, if I were to break this apart using magic numbers, well, the magic numbers that would multiply to 225 and add to negative 30 would be negative 15 and negative 15. And so we'd just write this as x minus 15 quantity squared. You write that as a perfect square. Okay? And we know that that makes sense because also from the other perspective, because if I start with the first two terms and build a perfect square from that, I would know that I would take half of b, half of negative 30 is negative 15. And so I build the perfect square x minus 15 quantity squared as long as the number I combined with those first two terms was half of negative 30, which is negative 15 squared, which is 225. And so the correct number is added to create this perfect square. So the answer then, just x minus 15 quantity squared. Okay, same thing here. Two numbers that multiply to 256 and add to 32 are just 16 and 16, so I get x plus 16 squared. Two numbers that multiply to 36 and add to negative 12 would be x minus 6 and x, or would be negative 6 and negative 6, so I get x minus 6 quantity squared. And then numbers that multiply to 64 and add to 16 would be 8 and 8. So we'd get the quantity x plus 8 squared. There it is. Okay, so the next bunch of problems, they want you now to start with the terms x squared plus 12x and add the correct number that would make that a perfect square trinomial. So we know the recipe for that is half of b squared is the number I would add. So if b is 12, half of b is 6, and 6 squared is 36. So c should equal 36. Okay, half of 1, because 1 is the coefficient of x. So in this case, b is 1. So half of b is 1/2. And I'm going to add half of b squared, which would be 1/2 squared, which is 1/4. So half of 1 squared, or 1/4, is the answer. Half of negative 1 is negative 1/2, and negative 1/2 squared is also 1/4. Okay, what about this one? This is one I want to just look at real quick. So now we know, and let's actually write this in the context of completing the square. So if we were doing a problem, it would look like this: x squared plus 9/5 x space. And then half of 9/5 is what? So to find half of something, you can either divide by 2 or multiply by 1/2. They're completely equivalent. So 1/2 times 9/5 is a much easier way to deal with it if it's a fraction. I just multiply fractions straight across. So this just gives me 9 on the top and 10 on the bottom. So 9/10 is the number that's going to be combined with x inside the square. But what number did we have to add to make that happen? Well, half of b is 9/10, and squared, that would be 9 squared on the top, which is 81, and 10 squared, which is 100 on the bottom. So the number we'd have to add for C would be 81 100ths. Okay. So this time they want us to go through the process of completing the square to solve the equation and just leave it in that form. Okay, so let's do this. So we're going to complete the square for that equation. Okay, so first thing we want to do is we got to get the x squared and the x term by themselves. So we would take the first two terms, leave a space, and we're going to subtract the 11 to the other side. Okay? And then what's the number that we're going to combine with x? Well, it's going to be half of b. If b is 5, then half of that is 5 halves. We just multiply the 5 by 1/2 or divide by 2, either way. Which means that the number that has to be added to both sides to make that happen is 5 halves squared. So what is that? Well, 5 halves squared is just 5 squared over 2 squared, so 25 fourths. To add up these numbers, I want to multiply both the top and the bottom by 4 to get a common denominator. So that's going to give me negative 44 plus 25 over the common denominator of 4, which is what? Negative 19 fourths. And so that's my answer. I just get x plus 5 halves quantity squared equals negative 19 fourths. That's where I get in order. That's the product of completing the square, the result of completing the square. Later on, we'll actually continue on with this process and solve for x by isolating x, but for now, that's all we want. Okay. Let's try another one.
Seriously? Somebody is baking cookies and not.
Okay, so same kind of thing here now. We got to get the x squared plus 9x by itself. So there's two things we got to do this time. First of all, I've got to chase that 5 to the other side. So the first step is going to be x squared plus 9x equals 5. And then the coefficient of x squared needs to be 1. So I've got to get rid of that negative 1. So I'm going to multiply each side through by negative 1. If I distribute on the left side, that's just going to give me positive x squared minus 9x, and I'll leave a space. And on the other side, I just get negative 5. So now I'll go through that same process we had before, where we're going to complete the square on the left side. So the number I combine with x is going to be half of negative 9, so negative 9 halves, which means I have to add to both sides negative 9 halves squared. Well, if I square a fraction, I square the top and square the bottom. So negative 9 squared is 81, 2 squared is 4. So I'm going to add 81 fourths to both sides, which means, what am I going to get on this side? Well, I'm going to multiply both parts of the first fraction by 4, so I get a common denominator. So I get negative 5 times 4 over 4 plus 81 over 4 equals, on the top, I just get negative 20 plus 81 divided by my common denominator of 4, which is what, 61 fourths? And so that's my answer. X minus 9 halves squared equals 61 fourths. Okay. Keep going. Okay, so what about this guy? How about if we just do the work on this one right here? So for this one, we've got start off with the equation negative x squared plus 2x minus 9 equals 0. So we'll chase the 9 to the other side. Add 9 to both sides. I'm going to multiply each side by negative 1, which is going to give me x squared minus 2x space equals negative 9. And then half of negative 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1, so I got to add 1 to both sides. And so on the right side, I just end up getting negative 9 plus 1 is negative 8. So that's my answer. The quantity x minus 1 squared equals negative 8. Okay, and then finally here. So same kind of process. If I so I start off with negative 2x squared plus 6x. I'll go ahead and subtract the 8 to the other side. And then what if I just divide each side through by negative 2? What's that going to give me? Well, on the left side, I've got to divide each of the two terms by negative 2. So negative 2x squared over negative 2 is x squared. 6x divided by negative 2 is negative 3x. Leave a space, equals negative 4. And so then we'll go through the process. Half of negative 3 is negative 3 halves, which means I've got to add to both sides negative 3 halves squared, which is 3 squared over 2 squared, so 9 fourths. And what do I get over here then? So negative 4 over 1 plus 9 over 4. So let's do that part. Negative 4 over 1 will multiply top and bottom by 4 plus 9 fourths. So on the top I get negative 16 plus 9 is negative 7 over my common denominator of 4. So all this stuff just combines to negative 7 fourths. That's my answer. Uh-oh, what did I do wrong? Something. Okay, I see what I did wrong. When I divided each side by negative 2, I didn't divide this side by negative 2. I divided by positive 2. So negative 8 over negative 2 is positive 4. Right, so when we go up and do this work, we're going to get 4 times 4 is 16 plus 9 is positive 25. So instead of negative 7 fourths, I end up with positive 25 fourths. Got a little careless there. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look real quick at these challenge problems. So one like this. Okay, so now this time, we'll go to the other page. Right, a little better. Okay. Okay, so what are we going to do? We got to get the x squared and the 6x by themselves, so we'll chase the 2 to the other side. So we get 3x squared plus 6x, leave a space, equals -2. I'll divide both sides through by 3 to get the x squared by itself, which is what we need. 6x over 3 is just 2x, leave a space. And then on this side I've got my -2/3. Okay, so what are we going to do then? We're just going to complete the square on the left. Half of +2 is +1. And 1 squared is just 1. And so we get x plus 1 quantity squared on the left side, and -2/3 plus 1 that's just going to be 1/3, isn't it? 1 minus 2/3 is 1/3. So there's my answer. What did I have? I forgot already. X plus 1 squared equals 1/3. There we go. Okay, last one. Okay, same kind of thing here. This time, let's see, we could subtract 15x from both sides. And what's that going to give us? So we're going to get 3x squared plus 37x plus 3 equals 0. Okay. Right, okay, so then, now what? So we're going to chase the 3 to the other side. So 3x squared plus 37x, leave a space, equals -3. We'll divide both sides through by 3. And that's going to give us x squared plus 37/3 x space equals -1. Okay, so if we complete the square, half of 37/3 is the same as 37/3 times 1/2, multiplying straight across gives us 37/6. So we get x plus 37/6 squared. To get that answer, though, we have to add 37/6 squared to both sides, which is a big number. So that's going to equal -1 plus 37 squared is what? Let's find out. 1369. So that gives us 1,369/36. I'll multiply -1 times 36 over 36, so we just get -36 plus 1369 over the common denominator 36, which is something horrible. That's going to be 1,333 divided by 36. So that's what I get on this other side. And I don't think that's going to reduce. Okay, so that's our answer. What? Okay. That was kind of an ugly one, but it was a challenge. Challenge problem. Okay, that's it for those video solutions.